PvP in Elden Ring can be great fun, but also quite challenging. The competition have been honing their skills against demigods and dragons alike since release. We're going to show you the ins and outs of making a PvP build, as well as an example build using those principles. Here's how to best prepare yourself against the hardest of Elden Ring bosses, other players. Elden Ring is super flexible, so there are a ton of viable build options for any given situation. We're going to point out some of the better pieces of equipment and then create an example from those. But don't be afraid to experiment once you've mastered the basics. If you're curious about where to get a particular weapon or piece of equipment, check out our written guide on IGN. When choosing pieces of armor for your character, the defensive stats are most important. Poise helps reduce stagger when you're attacked, which can be crucial for squeaking out one last strike or managing a quick escape. Damage negation is equally important, allowing you to potentially take an additional hit or two. To this end, we recommend the Bullgoat set, or a similar alternative, like the lighter weight veteran set, or the Omen set if you're into that kind of thing. These armors have high poise, along with equally high defensive stats. You need to keep your equip load to at least medium in order to dodge quickly. So if you don't have enough endurance to don one of these heavy sets, choose an alternative that'll keep you at medium load. Heavyweight dodge rolls are easy to exploit, and reduces your amount of invincibility frames. If Fashion is your passion, rest assured that there are plenty of alternative ways to mix and match other pieces into one of these recommended sets. There are a few armor pieces and sets that'll give you an increase to certain stats, or a passive buff like the Silver Tier Mask or the Spellblade set. There are a ton of viable weapon choices for PvP, so try out different weapons to see what suits your style. Your weapon choice will dictate how you allocate your stats. The most important differences between weapons are the pace of attacks, attack range, and weapon skills. You're looking for attacks that are hard to dodge, force the opponent to defend in predictable ways, or have powerful follow-up attacks. Rivers of Blood, for example, has excellent range and bleed buildup, making it very difficult to dodge and ideal for chipping away at your enemy. Some of the later game weapons, such as Dragon King's Cragblade, Sacred Relic Sword, and Hand of Millennia, offer weapon skills that also have these qualities. There are some powerful choices that are accessible relatively early on as well, such as the Bloodhound's Fang, Moonveil, or Eleonora's Poleblade. If you prefer using weapons with a customizable skill, try using the Ashes of War Hoarfrost Stomp, Hoaraloo's Earthshaker, and Sword Dance. If you're planning on building a caster or have trouble recovering after close calls, there is a specific Ash of War that needs an honorable mention, Bloodhound Step, which can be used in quick succession to quickly teleport away from a fight, or rush in if you need to quickly close a gap. If dodging isn't your thing, there are two other options you can add to your build to avoid damage. The first is the parry skill. It can be hard to do, mostly because you have to time your opponent's attacks perfectly, but if executed correctly, it'll set you up for a powerful critical hit. The parry Ash of War can be equipped to specific weapons and shields. Speaking of shields, blocking is the other alternative. The most important stats on a shield are its damage negation percentages and its guard boost. Ideally, your shield will have 100% physical damage negation and the highest guard boost possible. This way you can reliably block physical attacks while spending as little stamina as you can, although other types of damage still bleed through. To this end, we recommend the Fingerprint Stone Shield. It can outright counter some people's narrow physical builds if the shield is maxed out and you're using the Great Shield Talisman. Once you've chosen your armaments, level them up as high as possible to increase their base damage and their skills damage. The additional power is crucial. Staffs and seals are technically armaments, but they can only affect sorceries and incantations. Speaking of which, although you could use both, the number of stat points needed to efficiently use sorceries and incantation is drastic. So in most cases, it's better to choose one of these two spellcasting options to support your build. Incantations are generally the stronger choice. They have better buffs, along with a diverse set of viable spell options. Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vowel's attack buffs stack with each other, for example. Another great combo for incantation users is Fire's Deadly Sin and Blood Flame Blade. The fire damage aura from Fire's Deadly Sin will start to apply the bleed from Blood Flame Blade, making it easy to punish Tarnished who like to run. Don't count sorceries out entirely though. Some of the offensive spells are nearly impossible to dodge and hit really hard. It's a little FP intensive, but Stars of Ruin almost guarantees at least some damage while setting you up for follow-up attacks. When choosing a staff or seal to cast your spells from, keep in mind what attributes scale their power, and their additional passive effects found in their descriptions. For instance, the Frenzied Flame Seal scales with Dexterity, Strength, Faith, and Intelligence, allowing for your incantations to be powered up from all of these stats. In addition, this specific seal boosts Frenzied Flame incantations by 20%, making spells like Frenzied Burst incredibly strong. Pay attention to your staff's attribute scaling as well. The Meteorite staff starts with an S scaling in intelligence, along with a 30% boost to the power of your gravity spells. Lusat's Glintstone staff doesn't have as much scaling power, but it does increase the potency of all your sorceries by 10% at the cost of more expensive spells. Also, there are a lot of intelligence weapons that, when combined with sorceries, can be devastating, such as Moonveil and the Dark Moon Greatsword. One last thing to note, a lot of sorceries and incantations can be charged by holding down the casting button. Charged spells do more damage, and can increase their range at the cost of an increased spellcasting time. Use this to throw off an opponent's dodge timing, or cut your cast short for a quicker recovery. Just like with your weapon choice, there are a lot of good options to pick for talismans. Here are just some of our favorites. If you're building a caster, the Radagon's icon increases your casting speed as if you had 30 more points in dexterity. If you find yourself focused on your weapon skill, the Shard of Alexander boosts its damage by 15%. The +5 to Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity from Radagon's Soreseal more than makes up for the 15% increase in incoming damage, especially if you prioritize HP with other great talismans like the Erdtree's Favor +2 or the Crimson Amber Medallion. The Bull Goat's Talisman increases Poise by a staggering 33%. The Great Jar's Arsenal provides a 19% increase to the max equip load, allowing you to use heavier armor and weapons. Finally, the Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman decreases all the physical damage taken by 17%. You won't be able to choose all of these, but try to find the ones that suit your style the best. There are a few things to keep in mind when choosing your stats for PvP. Mind is important in relation to how much you rely on your skills or spells to do your damage. Take note of how many times you can use Bloodhound's Finesse or Stars of Ruin, and then choose your amount of mind to accommodate a certain amount of uses. Vigor reigns supreme and should be your top priority. Being able to take an additional Rivers of Blood slap could be the edge you need for a win. Ideally, your endurance will be the exact amount needed for you to carry all of your gear and stay within a medium weight load. Using talismans to increase your weight capacity won't come with the increased stamina that endurance does. Strength and dexterity should both be proportionally invested in relation to what stats your weapons scale with, but each comes with its own unique benefit. Dexterity decreases your casting time, so hybrid build casters may want to pair their spells with a dex weapon. When you two-hand a weapon, your strength score increases by 50%, also increasing that weapon's damage. Intelligence and faith, like strength and dexterity, is most often a binary choice. Depending on what kind of casting you choose, along with how much you'll depend on casting, will dictate how many points to allocate towards these stats. Note that even buff spells are empowered by a higher related casting stat. The only PvP-related benefit Arcane provides is with weapons that specifically scale off Arcane. The additional blood, madness, poison, or sleep damage scales off the amount of Arcane you have, but only with weapons that also scale off Arcane. When considering your Flask of Wondrous physic options, know that PvP fights won't always last that long, and you won't always have it available in every fight. Use it for a quick boost to your power by choosing one of the Crystal Knot tiers to increase the stat by 5, along with one of the Shrouded Crack tiers for a more specific type of damage. Stamina is needed for every weapon swing, so the 15 stamina per second recovery from the Green Burst Crystal tier is nice to have. Rather go into the fight with some additional defenses? The Opaline Bubble tier can absorb most of the damage from your opponent's next attack. The Crimson Bubble tier heals you for 30% of your maximum HP once you drop below 20%. If you have a lot of HP, using both the Crimson Crystal tiers to heal all of it in one potion is also useful. Now that we've laid out the principles for crafting an efficient PvP build, let's put one together. In this build, we're taking advantage of the bleed build-up mechanic as a Faith caster using dex weapons. The curved greatsword Bloodhound's Fang has blood loss build-up, but can be improved with the Blood Flame Incantation, which also adds fire damage. The fire damage is buffed with the Flame Grant Me Strength Incantation, which also increases physical damage. This physical damage buff stacks exponentially with Golden Vow, which applies a damage and defensive buff simultaneously. This defense is backed up by our equipment, with the damage negation and poise of the Bull Goat set complemented by the Bull Goat's Talisman. This combination brings us to 133 poise, the maximum without consumable items like Balachin's Blessing. Radagon Soreseal's benefits are too good to pass up, so our Wondrous Flask is mixed with the Crimson and Opaline Bubble tiers, giving us defensive buffs to help mitigate its negative effect. Erdtree's Favor +2 also helps mitigate Radagon Soreseal's deficits by providing more HP, and comes with additional stamina and equipped load. That, combined with Great Jar's arsenal, makes our tanky build comfortably sit at a medium load. The Frenzied Flame Seal is chosen for its dexterity scaling, along with the added buff to our range incantation, Frenzied Burst. For stats, Vigor and Dexterity are the priority, followed by a high Faith and Mind to support the many buff and offensive spells in the build. The Intelligence, Arcane, and Endurance stats are resting at the amounts needed for the necessary requirements of our spells and equipped load. Our Armaments have a little bit of strength scaling, so we invested a few points in it as well. As for our other incantations, Swarm of Flies combines well with the hemorrhage effects of our Bloodhound's Fang. It also adds a powerful slow-moving ability to our arsenal to keep the opponents guessing. Fire's Deadly Sin removes the Flame Grant Me Strength buff, but because it applies blood loss due to Bloodflame Blade, it's a great option for chasing down Maidenless Tarnished who spam their dodges. Honed Bolt is another great answer to interrupting dodge spamming, and happens to be great at punishing players who try to heal. Exaiki's Decay could be replaced with any other named dragon breath options, and is mainly used to switch up strategies in case of a stalemate. Barrier of Gold helps counter magic builds by increasing magic resistance by 60%. All that leaves is the Sacred Relic Sword. This weapon is perfect for our Dex and Faith build, scaling from both of them. Its Wave of Gold skill is devastatingly powerful, has a knockback effect, huge range, and makes for a great opening attack. Regardless of what build you choose to make, determining the pace of combat is crucial. Using slow-moving abilities like the Swarm of Flies incantation or the Wave of Gold skill are great ways to force your opponent to react in ways that you can predict. Follow up with faster options like a dash attack or Bloodhound's Finesse to take advantage of the predictable dodges that come after. You could also move forward with these slow-moving abilities to close the gap if your strength lies in a melee strategy, like this one. You'll want to apply buffs right before the fight, but they don't last forever. Look for opportunities to reapply them mid-fight when they run out. Once you've practiced for a while, consider rearranging your spells to make switching them easier to do while in combat. Your build has to be able to answer for the array of other builds. The best PvP players will have options against the many strategies you'll potentially face. With these tips, we hope you'll be farming fellow Tarnished for runes and rune arcs in no time. Let us know about any combinations you've found success with in PvP, or where your favorite place to fight is. For more on Elden Ring, be sure to check out our sorcery build guide for a more spell-focused character, or our guide on how to unlock the secret endgame area of Nicola's Erdtree. For all of your other gaming needs, keep it here on IGN.